11:30, how are we doing this Easter? Okay, I hope it's real. I hope that that's true. You know, the longer you do something, you get fatigued and you start thinking things that are just like, where did that come from? Is that just letting you into my headspace right now? So I'm off stage, they're talking about Blue Bottle, and I'm like, I kind of look like Blue Bottle's logo today. That's it. That's all. I won't give that to the other services. But I've got so much for you. Hey, I don't know about you, but when I wake up every single morning, I need places to put my hope. Anybody? I wake up, and the first place I put my hope is that the clock's going to say that it's the middle of the night and I've got several hours left. Do you know that move? Some of you are like, Ben, when I see 7:30, I feel like that's the middle of the night. All right, millennial, you're going to be okay. Gen Z, we got you. It's coming for you. The next thing I do, once I do get up, I hop on the scale in hopes that last night's cinnamon roll doesn't affect my weight this day. If you want like a killer go-to, like just change it from pounds to kilogram and you'll be looking awesome. No matter what you did, you'll catch that later. Just try it. And then I get to the kitchen and I'm hoping that the coffee has already been brewed, that it is hot, that it is delicious, and that it is strong. And for me, most days by 6 a.m., I've already set my hope so many places. Let me ask you, when you start your day, where are you placing your hope? Like when you gain consciousness, whatever time that is, no judgment here, but when you gain consciousness every morning, where are you placing your hope? Some of you, for whatever reason, immediately open your email app in hopes that you didn't receive 100 emails from the time you checked it last night. Anybody? Some of you checking it right now. That's why you're not responding to me. Or you check your email app in hopes that you got the one email you know that if it's there, it will change your life. I'm ready for you. I am so ready for you. Others of you, I don't know how this is working out for you so far this year, but you check your stock market app, see if there's more green than red. How's that going in 2025? Not making a judgment call, just asking the question today. Others of you, you put out like the perfect post on social media, whether you chose LinkedIn or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, and you're just hoping that it garnered the kind of attention that you spent time on with it, and you're like, Others of you, don't raise your hand unless you're single looking for a match today, but some of you, the first thing you do is open your dating app to see if his or her interests have responded to your interests. We are starting a brand new series next week on intimacy, sex, friendship, marriage, and whatever else we can think of. I don't know who's teaching it, but I'd be back next week if I were you. Some of you, true story, you wake up and take another pregnancy test in hopes that it will reveal the thing that you want more than anything in the world. And the thing is, every person in this full room right now, we've got a few seats to my right. You guys feel free to come on in. If you've got seats, you let it be known. You can sell those seats if you want to. I'm telling you, it's been a day. Every person in this room, as well as all of you who are watching online right now, whether you're in San Francisco or wherever you happen to be around the world, every one of us, we're carrying some level of hope today. And what I want you to do as a favor to yourself, not to say it out loud, but just to think on a scale of 0 to 100, what is your hope score today? Just get that number in your mind. Don't overthink it, but think enough about it. Here's, based on just where I am, it's 11:53 a.m., April 20th, 2025, and because of where I'm at in life and how I'm thinking about things, here's my hope score, and just tell yourself, here's why it is what it is. Here's why it is what it is. Some of you have a really high hope score today, and that's awesome. Maybe you are like me. You're just an optimist. Any optimists in the house? Like, we don't mind telling you that we are. These are the people you want to go to. Doesn't matter what the stock market says or your dating app or anything else. Come see us. We will spin it for the positive. You're just an optimist like me. And for us as optimists, we're like everything is awesome and everything is going to be awesome. The only problem with our optimism is it doesn't know how to speak into things like suffering and disappointment. Others of you also have a really high hope score because you know that if you get the thing that you have set your heart on, everything will be good for you for the rest of your life. And so you believe if you get the guy or the girl, if you get the promotion, if you finally stay at a tech company long enough for your options to vest, if you just get the thing that you've set your heart on, that vacation destination, achieving what you're putting all your energy towards right now, if you get it, your hope score is high because you know once you grasp it, once you hold it, once you clutch it, you know that you're going to have everything you will ever need for the rest of your life. The late British scholar, author, and Oxford professor C.S. Lewis says that kind of hope is actually the fool's way. He's not saying it to disparage you, but look at this quote. I really find help in this quote. He just writes that the fool's way, the fool, he says, puts the blame on the things themselves. He goes on all his life thinking that if only he tried another woman or went for a more expensive holiday or whatever it is, this time he really would catch the mysterious something we are all after. So here's the thing. Some of you have a really high hope score because you know so far you've just made bad choices. You need a new city to live in. For those of you who are college students, you need to transfer to a different university. For those of you in one industry, you know it's not that industry because you put your hopes there, it didn't work, but you know there's another industry. Some of you, it's like you've been married multiple times. You've dated and made promises to so many people, and the reason is because you've told yourself the thing to blame is the things themselves, and you know that eventually you're going to find it. So your hope score is high. Now, there's another author named Lewis Smedes that says you've got to be careful not to have false hopes, but listen to how he defines it. He says, false hopes, all of them, not because they cannot come true, but because even if they do come true, they cannot bring the happiness we had hoped they would give us. So he's not saying that your false hope is false because you'll never get it. He's saying it's a false hope because even if you get it, when you get it, it won't do for you what you think it's promised you it will do for you. And some of us are like, let me try. Anybody? Right? Can I say something? Most of what I'm about to tell you is not from my own lived experience, but I have received enough of the things that I set my heart on just to tell you that it lasts for a few days. It might last for a season, but it doesn't last forever. And I have a privilege maybe that you do have also, or maybe you don't have, but I get to sit with some of the most powerful people, some of the wealthiest people, people that have had the most amazing partners and women and men, and I'm just here to tell you, it hasn't solved everything for them. And the good news, too, is what they need is the same thing you need, whatever that happens to be. Now, some of you are rocking a very low hope score in the room or online today, and here's why. Everything you set your heart on, you've already got. You have more money than you know what to do with. You are known, you are powerful, you always get the promotion. You not only do you own a home in San Francisco that a lot of people in this room are like, oh, you've spent $1 million remodeling the home that none of us can afford in San Francisco. You've gotten it all, but I get it. When you get everything and it doesn't do it for you, hopelessness does kind of make sense, doesn't it? But for all of us in the room today, I want to ask this question. What have you encountered in your life that has caused you to lose hope? And by the way, we all have an answer to this, and it's no good to compare my pain to your pain, is it? Does that ever help? Everybody's like, oh, I had this really hard thing. You're like, let me tell you. What have you encountered personally in your life that has caused you to lose hope? In 2012, my wife, Shauna, and I entered the adoption process in the nation of India. I'm an optimist, so I thought, oh, this is going to be amazing. We're going to try to bring a little girl into our family. And we received the news one day that we were matched with, at the time, a little 6-year-old girl. And this little girl was 7 by the time they sent the first pictures to us. And here's one of the pictures we received. I know. And remember, I'm an optimist. So I'm like, wow, we've been matched. We're about to get this girl into our home. And I thought things would speed up after the match, but rather than those things speeding up, those things slowed down. But finally, we made it to court, which I believe was just going to be a formality. You're paying all this money. You're doing the right things. You're filling out the forms. You're meeting with social workers. We've been matched. Court is just a formality. It's just a procedure that's going to greenlight everything all the way through. And then we receive word from our social worker after the first court day, you were denied. Why? You were denied because she would disrupt birth order in your family. Now, if I can just throw a little aside in there, we didn't choose her. They chose her for us. But I'm an optimist, and there would be other court days. And on the second court day where we were due in court, we were denied. And on the third court day when we were due in court, we were denied. And even as an optimist, after that third denial, my hope quotient was right about 0. We would later learn that the orphanage director, on that same time we learned about the denials, went to this little girl and said, hey, the family we told you was coming for you, they are in fact not coming for you. So here's a question, not just for us in that day, but for you today. How do you move forward when your hope is now behind you? Every person in this room as a child, and perhaps even as an adult, we used to talk about words like hope and expectation in the present tense. But what do you do when you reach a place in life where everything you had hoped for didn't work out, or it worked out and it didn't do it for you, so that hope is no longer a present or future tense for you? You can only talk about it in the past because it's gone. Well, in the first century, hope began to rise in the northern region of Israel called Galilee, and there was a man named Jesus who comes onto the scene, and it's interesting because he was there, but no one knew he existed really. He was from a normal, ordinary, humble family, but at the age of 30, he began to make extraordinary claims. He claimed that he was the Messiah, and it wasn't the first time a person had said, I'm the Messiah, but he went around claiming this, and he invited men and women to follow him, and many of them said yes. They left behind everything they knew. They went on this wild adventure with this man, and they saw him heal and perform other miracles. They were astounded by the way he taught with such authority. They couldn't believe that he didn't do what they did, which was to love people that were like them, but he loved everyone, the rich and the poor, those who came from his group and those who were part of the enemy group. And they were just inspired by this, and he began to promise that he would give deliverance and victory. And when someone like that promises deliverance and victory, a lot of people put their hope in him. But not everyone received him. There was a group of religious and political leaders who felt threatened by his audacious claims. And when you're in power and you feel threatened by power, you've got to get rid of the other power, right? When you're in power and power comes at you, you know that there can only be one power, at least in your mind. And so they got rid of him by executing him on a cross in something called crucifixion. Now, we may not all agree on the validity of Jesus. We'll talk about that the rest of the time. But I think we can all agree 100% that whatever crucifixion is, it looks like the exact opposite of victory, doesn't it? Which begs the question, what are you doing here? I mean, crucifixion looks like whatever victory is, it's not this. And yet here we are, about 2,000 years from that moment. It's kind of wild. In 8 years, it will be like 2,000 exact years. That's wild. About 2,000 years from that moment, and more than 2,000 miles from that moment, and here I am giving my life to this thing we're talking about today. Here you are showing up. Now, I don't know what got you here. She was like, I'll go to brunch with you if you go to church with me. Mom and Dad were like, we will pay for the flight, but you are coming to church. And you're staying at least 4 nights in our house. And you had to decide, like, I'm only really good for 2 nights in my parents' house. But whatever got you here, what in the world are we doing? Because when Jesus was crucified, here's the reality. When Jesus died, the hopes of his followers did too. So how are we here? I'm glad you asked. And more than that, I'm glad that you're here to celebrate Easter at Epic 2025. We've been praying for you all week. And I want to ask you to stand as I read our main text of Scripture today. If you're able to, if you're not able to, or if you get to the place that I'm reading where you're like, you chose too many verses, feel free to have a seat. It's a narrative. It moves pretty swiftly. In Luke 24, verse 13 through 35, here's what happened on that Sunday. Remember, Jesus has been crucified. It looks like the opposite of victory. The people we're going to read about, their hope score starts at a 0. It ends at 100. And you should be asking, is that possible for me? Now, that same day, 2 of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" They stood still, their faces downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, asked him, Are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened there in these days? And Jesus plays along. What things? He asks. Just imagine, like the worst thing ever has happened to you and you act like you don't even know. About Jesus of Nazareth, they replied. He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one who was going to redeem Israel. And what is more, it is the third day since all this took place. In addition, some of our women amazed us. They went to the tomb early this morning, but didn't find his body. They came and told us that they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. Then some of our companions went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see Jesus. He said to them, how foolish you are and how slow to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Messiah have to suffer these things and then enter his glory? And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself. As they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus continued on as if he were going farther. But they urged him strongly, stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over. So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Listen, then their eyes were open, and they recognized him, and then he disappeared from their sight. He's playing games, it seems. Like, I'm not here, now you know me, I'm out. They asked each other, were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road and opened the scriptures to us? They got up and returned at once to Jerusalem. There they found the 11 and those with them assembled together and saying, it is true, the Lord has risen and has appeared to Simon. Then the two told what had happened on the way and how Jesus was recognized by them when he broke the bread. In one scene, we see their hope score go from hovering around 0 to hovering right around 100. Is that possible for you? I believe so. That's why I'm giving my life and what we've worked hard for and prayed into this week. You may be seated. Let's try to understand how it would be possible. I love that Jesus just shows up in the middle of their conversation. Don't you love it when someone shows, like it's just you and another person, and you're having this in-depth conversation, and a third person comes up, and they're like, what are you guys talking about? Like, we don't want to tell you. We would have been, like, and it's amazing to me that Jesus is present with them, but they have no idea. We should at least consider the same possibility. I'll have it on the screen in the form of a question. Is it possible that Jesus is present in your life even if you aren't aware? I'm not saying he is. I'm just asking the question, is it possible? Just so you know, those of us who have at some point in our lives put our faith into Jesus, it was only after that when we look back that we could see how he was present before we knew him. A lot of people have that story in here. Then we look back and we go, oh gosh, I wasn't alone at that low point. I wasn't by myself. That chapter that seemed like it was going to kill me, it wasn't my last chapter. And we can get a sense of like, oh, he's present. So the possibility exists that he could be very present in your life and you have no idea. And Jesus, he steps right into the midst of their hopelessness. These two, they're walking away from Jerusalem, the place where their hopes were built and the place where their hopes were destroyed. And I'm kind of like, why not give it another day, guys? Optimists think it's going to turn around, don't we? Like, I'm going to extend my time at the hotel. We're going to stay one more just to see. And they're like, no, we're out. It's already been 3 days. We are out. And they treat Jesus like he has no idea what's going on. He's like, what are you talking about? They're like, we're talking about what everyone's talking about. Are you the only person here? Just imagine the irony. Are you the only person here who has no clue what's been going down the last 3 days? They treat Jesus, and I get it, he's disguised. They treat Jesus like he has no idea what's been going on when Jesus has more idea than they do about what's been going on. Some of us in this room believe that if there is a God, he has no clue what's happening in you and around you right now. And I want you to know from me, he has not only a clue, he has every clue, every idea, and every bit of truth about who you are, who you can become, what you've been through, and how that doesn't have to define you forever. He's very aware, like he knows. And Jesus meets them right then. So they're like, these are the things we're talking about. And Jesus says, what things? Like, what things? Now, I don't believe, do you ever get texts or emails, and because they can't convey tone, you assume the worst possible? You don't? Oh, I always mean well. Some are like, yeah, that's why I audio text everything. I want them to hear the tone. When you read this, it seems like Jesus is being condescending and looking down, but I don't believe he's being condescending at all. So when Jesus says what things, he's not being condescending. Here's what you might want to reimagine it as. It's like he's saying, hey, tell me what happened and how it's affected you. Tell me why your face is downcast based on what events just went down. It's like he's saying to them, hey, tell me where you lost hope, even if it's in me. And as you think about that, here's the reality. Jesus wants to meet you wherever you are today. Isn't that good news? And the beautiful thing about Jesus is that he will meet every one of us in individual specific ways today if we'll let him. Some of you, he's going to meet you in your doubts, going to meet you in your skepticism, in your atheism, in your agnosticism. Some of you gave up on the church because of how someone treated you or what you read or whatever. I totally get that. But he will meet you in that pain. His disciple Thomas goes, hey, you guys say he's alive. I'm not going to believe unless I see it, unless I touch it. And Jesus doesn't go, no, man, you're out. He's like, no, you can see and touch. He's meeting you wherever you are today, but listen to me. This is really, really, really important. Jesus is meeting you where you are today, but he will not meet you where you used to be. He will never meet you where you want to be, and he cannot meet you where you pretend to be. He can only meet you where you are in this moment. He'll take you lots of places, but he can't meet you anywhere other than where you are. So you're in really good, if you're like, Ben, I'm crushed coming in today, he'll meet you there. I'm lonely, he'll meet you there. I've just been broken up with, he'll meet you there. My marriage just ended, he'll meet you there. I got a doctor's report on Thursday. He will meet you there. He's not being condescending. He's like, tell me. And then they start to recall with great nostalgia, just like you and I when life was better. Can you remember a season that was better than the one we're in? And you talk about the good old days, that's what they're doing. It's almost like they're looking back towards Jerusalem as they walk to Emmaus, and they're like, he's like, tell me about it. And they're like, yeah, Jesus, he was awesome. Like we bought what he was selling, hook, line, and sinker. He was a prophet in the eyes of God and man. He was powerful in word, and you can hear it in their voices, can't you? Like, oh, remember when? They're like, but our rulers and the chief priests, they crucified him. And then here comes that 3-word phrase, but we had hoped. We had hope. Maybe like the two of these men, you also talk about hope only in the past tense. You know what it's like to have lived with hope. You don't currently know what it's like to live with hope. That's where they were. Their hope score literally hovering around a 0. They're like, we had hope. And some of you know what it's like to start a sentence with, I had hoped. Don't raise your hand on this one, but I know the stories in this room, and I don't know a lot of the stories, but I'm just going to say some things that are true in this room. You had hoped that the marriage would last. You had hoped that the idea would get funded. Some of you right now, you're like, Ben, I feel like hope's about to be past tense on even me being able to stay in this country. You had hoped that you would be able to stay. You had hoped that there would be 2 lines on the pregnancy test, not just one. You had hoped that the doctor would have had better news when you went for your last checkup. You had hoped that your parents would have stayed together. You hoped that your child would have turned their life around. You had hoped. They know not only what it's like to lose their hope, they know what it's like to lose their faith. Listen to what they say. Some of our women amazed us. That's where the ladies should say amen, but they lost their shot. It's like, yeah, we did. Some of our women amazed us. They went and they saw the vision of angels. They did not see Jesus, and that wasn't enough for these guys. Then they say some of our other companions, which mean that the first group they're saying is women. Now they're talking about the men. They're talking certainly including those original disciples, the apostles. They went and they also found the tomb empty, but they did not see Jesus. Isn't that fascinating? Again, I'm an optimist, but if they're like the tomb is empty, I'm going to hang around and see what this guy is. Jesus said, how foolish. He says that he had to suffer and then enter his glory. Here's what he's saying. You are correct. Suffering was one of my chapters, but it was never intended to be the final chapter. And whatever you've lost hope in today, wherever your disappointment lies today, wherever you're suffering, whatever you're alone, and no one in this room or even in your whole world knows about it, he wants to say to you, the place where you've lost hope, it is very much a real chapter in your life, but it does not really have to be the final chapter in your life. Some of you need to know that the story keeps going. So they had an empty tomb, but that wasn't enough, and here's why. What we need more than an empty tomb is an encounter with the risen Jesus. That will change things. Maybe you're here today, or even if you've been here before, or a friend invited you, maybe you've gotten wind of some of the stories that are being written about. Let me just say a few things as you, especially anytime my name's in a story or other friends of mine. We are not writing these stories, just so you know. I got a message yesterday from someone and said, hey, I hadn't seen them in 15 years. They live in another part of the country. Like, hey, I was listening to NPR and I heard a quote from you. I was like, well, I haven't talked to NPR. Now, what is becoming a cultural phenomenon around faith and religion in Silicon Valley, that's fine, but the reality of what God's doing is legitimate, and that's what I'm celebrating today. Some of you have become Christians this year. That's amazing. Isn't that cool? There's people in this room, it's their first Easter as a Christian. It's awesome. Some of you, it's going to be one before you leave today. You don't even know it yet. But what Jesus is doing is he's taking atheists and making them proponents of faith. And you're like, that sounds crazy. Well, that's what he's been doing all throughout history. He's been taking the least likely. He's been taking the ones who hate him and his people. He's been taking people that are the most intellectual. He's been taking people that have lots of disappointment and heartbreak. And he has been transforming them in massive kinds of ways. And he'll do the same for you. So these guys come back and they're just like, it is true, the Lord is risen and he has appeared to Simon. And even if you're not a church person, you may know that Simon's other name is Peter. Peter, yep, the Peter who denied Jesus 3 times. Like, I don't know him, I don't know him, I don't know him. Peter who's wallowing in his grief and remorse since the moment of crucifixion. Peter who goes back to fishing because when you lose hope, all you can do is go back to the only thing that you know. Peter whose hope score is hovering right at 0. He appeared to Peter, and you may, like, what effect did it have on Peter? You're like, Ben, did it last for a moment? Yeah, everybody can be emotional for a moment, right? Anybody ever been to a concert, they start playing a certain song or a certain key, and even though you have no emotion the rest of your life, you start feeling it? Seriously, like, even you engineers. You're like, this was not part of the equation. And so the question for a guy like Peter is like, man, how long did this emotional high stay? Like, did he make it a week before he went back to fishing? Did he come to his senses and go, wow, I was hallucinating? Some amazing things happen in the first 50 days in Peter's life after Jesus resurrected. But to just kind of show you the kind of staying power Peter's experience had, I want to read you something that he wrote 30 years after the resurrection. 30 years. Emotional highs don't last 30 years, do they? Some of you are like, Ben, I've tried something. No, stop. That doesn't last 30 years either. Here's what Peter penned in 1 Peter 3 and 4. Remember, this is like the mid-60s AD, so 30 years after Jesus died. This guy was a denier. He was fearful. He had no courage. He goes back to fishing until he doesn't. So Peter writes, praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. This inheritance is kept in heaven for you. 30 years after Jesus was said to be alive. I do not care how smart you are. You cannot rationalize that. This guy is locked in the room because he's afraid of what people are going to do to him. He's denied Jesus because his anxiety got the best of him like it has for so many of us. He's gone back to fishing because he lost the calling he thought Jesus had given him. In 30 years, he's going, this is how he opens his letter, by the way. He does the greetings thing, and then the first thing on his mind is, thanks be to God. My hope died, and then I saw the risen Jesus, and my hope has been living ever since because Jesus will be living forever. He's given me a new birth. That's available to you today. Into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. Do you know that the things that you think are going to last forever won't? This is like depression time. You ready? Some of you won't even have the job that you have now a year from now. You're like, no, Ben, I've got a life plan. I'm going to be there for 18 years. Some of you have amazing minds that you get awarded for right now. They've told me, I've not experienced this, but as you age, your mind kind of ages too. There are people in this room that can tell you that the way your body works today, it will not work this way forever. There are pleasures you're experiencing today that you cannot have forever, but Jesus is offering you a way to anchor your hope to something that will be there forever. Forever. Do you want that? Jesus is offering a lot of things, and if he's kept his promise so far, shouldn't we at least explore the idea of trusting him to keep his promises in the future? A few things Jesus has promised you that it would at least be worth, 6 months of your time to take them up on, see if they're true. Jesus has promised you to have a peace beyond what the world can give. He has promised you lasting satisfaction. Here, that I'm going to say some things that should make your eyes go big. He's promised a satisfaction that is deeper and longer lasting than the best sex, than the most money, than the greatest achievements. He's promised you a life with him in his presence forever. I think you should take him up on it. I think you should try it out. We've sung a couple songs about orphans today. I told you about that girl that we were denied 3 times. And just as an aside, maybe you're curious, like, how did things work out for her and how did things work out for our family? Well, on June 17th, we will have been a family for 10 years. And the reason I'm emotional for the first time telling that story is that she's in the room with me. And this is a recent picture of the two of us. Now, when Jesus was going to go away, he was trying to find a way to comfort his disciples. And what he said to them was this. He was going to go away, not just like when he died, but after he rose from the dead, he was going to ascend. He would no longer be present to them in the way that they could see him and they could touch him with their eyes. So here's what he said to them. He said, I will not leave you as orphans. And that's a whole word for somebody today. How was he going to do that? He was going to put his Holy Spirit into us. So the way Paul said it in Galatians 4, verses 4 and 5, when the fullness of time had come, God sent his son, born to a woman, born under the law, so that we might receive what? Adoption. All right, we're going to act like we want to be. All right. So that we might receive adoption, that you could become a daughter or a son of the living God. Now, something that God said to me in this service, you're like, wow, that sounds spooky. Well, I haven't said that to anyone because I only heard it during the 3rd song today, so I'm going to tell it at this service. Some of you have so much disappointment, you're not sure that you can believe that life with God would even be able to do something about it. Let me say something. This beautiful girl who's now part of our family, joining our family hasn't removed all of her questions. It hasn't removed all of her pain, and it hasn't removed all of ours. So I'm not here to sell you on something that will be like, oh, your life will be easy from here towards the end. I'm just here to tell you that with Jesus, it'll be worth it. And whatever your chapter is in this moment of your story doesn't have to be your final chapter. So I want to ask you to stand. Well, grab a card that's in your seat. You go ahead and stand. Look at this card. Look at it even if you're not going to fill it out. That will help me feel better. There are all kinds of responses based on what we've experienced today, but I want to just point to the 3 on the bottom right. The first one says that I'm ready to start my faith journey. For any of you who are like, I'm experiencing something, I don't have words for it yet, but I would love to start a faith journey with Jesus, you can check that. And what we want to do is you'll take this card down to the lobby. We want to give you just this book. Our church has generously made this available for everyone who turns in one of these cards just to learn how you can follow Jesus, and we'd love to help you do that. The second one says, come back to my faith. Can we be honest for a moment? For hundreds of you in this room, it's not that you've never had a faith, but let's be straight. Life got busy, didn't it? You experienced disappointment. You moved to San Francisco, and work has demanded everything of you, and so kudos to you for being in the house today. But I wonder if there's not hundreds and hundreds, scores of people in this room or watching online. Today's the day where you're going to come back to a faith that you started as a child, as a young adult. And the beautiful news about Jesus is if he can take Peter back after Peter acted like he didn't know him, he'll take you back in a heartbeat. And third says, be baptized. This is how the Christian community for the last couple thousands of years has identified their faith in Jesus, by marking it externally, this new birth that Peter writes about, by getting submerged underwater and then coming out representing new life that we have in Jesus. And so I'd love for you to consider that. But for whatever your story is today, he's still meeting you right in the middle of it. So Jesus, thank you for every man, woman, boy, and girl in this room, that you're enough. Thank you that as you did with these two on the road to Emmaus, you meet us right where we are. And you give us a reason to have not a hope that comes and goes, not to have an inheritance that's here today but gone tomorrow, but an inheritance that lasts forever and a hope that stays alive because you're alive. Thank you for what you've been doing in the season of our church, in the city, and around the world. I'm praying that today would be the yes day for so many people. We think fondly about the day that Kavita entered our family. I know that you would love to throw a party in heaven today for the men and women who enter yours. Let it be. In Jesus' name, amen. A lot of times we sing with our eyes closed, but I want to encourage you to sing with your eyes open. Our video team has put together an incredible video that you don't want to miss.